The Cleveland Browns will not draft Ty Simpson.
Wow.
I don't think they'll draft Ty Simpson. However, I do think the Browns are going to draft a developmental quarterback on day 3 of the draft.
Right now, the Browns are sitting in one of the weirdest spots in the entire NFL draft because everybody thinks they know what Cleveland is about to do. But if you actually listen closely, half of these reports sound like educated guesses dressed up as inside info. One minute, people are saying the Browns are locked in on offense. Next minute, somebody says they could absolutely take defense at 6. Then another voice says they want to trade down, collect future assets, and play the long game. And when you hear all of that at once, you realize something fast. This team has become the perfect target for smokescreens because they have enough holes, enough uncertainty, and enough pressure that almost any rumor sounds believable for at least 5 minutes.
I do genuinely believe that the Browns are desperately trying to trade down from number 6 and acquire more 2027 assets.
Again,
this is master of the obvious.
This is master of the obvious.
That is what makes this draft so fascinating for Cleveland. They are not drafting from a place of comfort. They are drafting from a place where every move is going to get judged immediately. If they go receiver, people will say finally they are helping the offense. If they go defensive player, people will scream they ignored obvious needs again. If they trade down, some fans will call it smart asset management, and other fans will say they are punting on urgency. So when these draft rumors start flying around, you have to separate what actually makes sense from what is just draft season noise. Because this time of year, every front office leaks a little, every agent pushes a little, and every media person starts connecting dots that might not even belong on the same page.
You know, a lot of the guys that change, like the skill position players don't bounce around.
Linemen, like journeyman linemen.
Right, but you don't know those names as well, you know? That's why, like, when they have, like, the Browns and the Giants, and I put in Peyton Hillis.
Here's the part nobody is talking about. The easiest rumor to believe is usually the least useful one. Of course, the Browns would like to trade down from 6. Who wouldn't? That is not exactly some shocking revelation. If you are sitting in that spot and you do not love the full board, trading down is common sense. The real question is whether anyone wants to come up. That is where the rumor gets real or fake. Saying Cleveland wants more 2027 assets sounds smart, it sounds forward-thinking, it sounds like something a careful front office would absolutely discuss. But wanting something and actually pulling it off are two very different things. A lot of draft rumors survive because they describe intentions, not outcomes. And that is why the trade down talk feels half real, half smoke. Real in the sense that Cleveland is absolutely exploring it, fake in the sense that some people talk about it like it is basically already done. It is not. This is not one of those drafts where 10 teams are dying to jump into the top 6 for a quarterback. That matters. In a weaker top-end quarterback market, the leverage changes. You can want to move back all you want, but if nobody is offering real value, then suddenly all that trade-down chatter becomes background music. And the Browns cannot afford to get too cute here either, because at some point, you still need blue-chip talent, not just future flexibility.
I agree. Carnell Tate is the number, and it's not a bad thing if you just take him at 6.
I think if the Browns, I'm going to leave open the possibility that they will draft a defensive player.
Now, let's get into the rumor that the Browns will not draft Ty Simpson, because honestly, that one feels pretty real. Not because anything is impossible on draft night, but because the logic just isn't strong enough early. There is a difference between being open-minded and forcing a quarterback conversation because the internet needs one. Cleveland already has enough chaos in that room. Taking Ty Simpson high would feel like adding another layer of confusion without actually solving the long-term question. And if that happened, it would not feel bold, it would feel desperate. That is why the Browns won't draft Ty Simpson rumor sounds more like a realistic read than a hot take. This is where it gets dangerous, because draft people love quarterback mystery. The position is so important that even average prospects get inflated into major debates, but not every team is secretly in love with every available quarterback. Sometimes a team just doesn't view the class that way, and with Cleveland, it feels pretty obvious they don't want to force a quarterback at 6 or 24. Unless they are truly convinced. That part is believable. What becomes more interesting is the day 3 rumor, the idea that they still might grab a developmental quarterback later.
If the Browns can't trade down and Tate is gone, are you now okay with taking a defensive player?
They would have to. because there's no.
It's not the perfect situation, but it might be the.
Now that one is more complicated. I actually buy the spirit of it more than the label. Developmental quarterback sounds nice, but in the modern NFL, that term gets thrown around way too easily. Teams don't really have the same patience they used to. Most of these guys either show something quickly, or they become camp bodies, backups, or trade chips. So when people say the Browns will take a developmental quarterback on day 3, what they really mean is they might take a cheap lottery ticket. That part is real, but the fantasy that they are going to slowly mold some hidden gem for 3 years and then unveil him as the future, that is mostly smoke. And Cleveland has to be careful there, because this is where young front offices usually make a mistake. They start falling in love with the idea of being smarter than everybody else. They convince themselves they can find the next Brock Purdy every year, when the truth is most late-round quarterbacks never become anything close to that. If the Browns take one on day 3, fine. That's a reasonable swing, but if anyone tries to sell it like that guy is secretly a huge answer, that's draft propaganda. At best, it's a depth move. At worst, it's another wasted pick in a room that already lacks clarity. The rumor I buy the most is the wide receiver one, specifically that Carnell Tate has separated himself as the consensus top receiver for Cleveland's range. That actually makes football sense. He feels safer than some of the flashier or more uncertain names, and for a team like the Browns, safe is not a bad word right now. Safe can mean polished. Safe can mean ready. Safe can mean the floor is so high that even if he is not a top 3 superstar, he still becomes a very good starting NFL receiver for a long time. And when your offense desperately needs reliability, that profile becomes very attractive.
He tested out as a 10 out of 10 as a linebacker, a 9.8 out of 10 as a defensive end, and a 10 out of 10 as a safety. Meaning, you had the positional versatility to stay even in a even if you wanted to stay in like a traditional 4-3 base defense. Sonny Styles is, once again, on paper.
What makes that rumor feel even more real is the way people talk about the alternatives. My Lemon sounds exciting, but he feels more like a player you need to really design touches for. Jordan Tyson has talent, but the injury talk creates hesitation. Other receiver names may still be very good, but Tate sounds like the cleanest projection. And when teams are drafting high, they often lean toward the cleaner projection because missing hurts more than playing it slightly conservative. So if the Browns stay at 6 and want offense, Tate being the pick feels real. Not guaranteed, but real enough that it should be taken seriously. Here's the part nobody is talking about. A rumor gets stronger when the alternative sounds awkward. If Tate is the obvious clean receiver fit, then everybody else becomes easier to talk yourself out of. That is exactly how consensus forms in draft season. It is not always because one player is a can't-miss superstar. Sometimes it is because he's the one guy who makes the whole room nod and say, yeah, I see it. That is why the rumor that Tate is the Browns' likely offensive target does not feel like smoke. It feels like the draft board gradually telling on itself. Now let's talk about the rumor that if Tate is gone and the Browns cannot trade down, a defensive player is absolutely on the table. I buy that one too, and honestly, I think some fans are going to hate how real it is. Because there is this idea that Cleveland has to go offense at 6 no matter what, and emotionally, I understand that. The offense needs help, the receiver room needs juice, the line still has questions, but forcing a need pick is how teams end up regretting drafts 3 years later. If Tate is off the board and the offensive line prospects do not truly wow them, then taking the best defensive player left is not some betrayal, it is just rational drafting. And once you start walking through the scenario, the defensive case gets harder to dismiss. Sonny Styles has the kind of versatility that makes coordinators start smiling before the pick is even made. Caleb Downs type profiles bring range, intelligence, and modern matchup flexibility. David Bailey gives you edge juice if the board breaks weird. These are not random names being forced into the top 10. These are the kinds of defensive players who can change how a unit functions. So when people act like defense at 6 is automatically fake because the offense needs help, that is where they lose me. It is not fake at all. It may not be the fan favorite route, but it is very much in play. This is where it gets dangerous, because the Browns are in the exact kind of position where a defensive pick can look terrible for one night and brilliant for 5 years. Fans will react to the need that went unfilled. Front offices are supposed to react to the value on the board. Those are not always aligned. If Cleveland drafts Sonny Styles after Tate is gone, there will be outrage in some corners. But 6 months later, if he looks like a chess piece who erases space and amplifies the whole front 7, the conversation changes fast. That is why this rumor feels real. It has all the ingredients of something fans resist and front offices love. The rumor that feels the most like smoke is the idea that the Browns have no real interest in offense if the board gets messy. I do not buy that. I think they know they need offensive help badly. I think they know the wide receiver room still needs real answers. I think they understand left tackle remains a problem that cannot be ignored forever. But understanding a need and reaching for it are not the same thing. That is the nuance some of these rumors lose. Cleveland can desperately want offensive reinforcements and still conclude that the best available player in a specific moment happens to be on defense. And that brings us to the tackle rumor, because this is one of the most interesting ones. The talk that the receiver value at 24 will be better than the tackle value at 24 feels pretty believable. This class just doesn't sound like one where everybody is gushing over a deep stable of clean left tackle prospects. There are names, sure. There are traits, sure. That is different from true conviction. If the Browns are trying to come out of round one with both a receiver and an offensive lineman, it would make sense that receiver depth helps them more later than tackle certainty does. That feels real, but even there is smoke mixed in, because saying the tackle pool is weaker can sometimes become an excuse to ignore the problem altogether. Cleveland still needs an answer somewhere. You can push it down the board, you can patch it with a veteran, you can get creative with position battles, but you cannot just pretend it doesn't matter. That is why the "we don't have to draft a tackle" take is reasonable only if there's an actual backup plan. Without that, it becomes wishful thinking disguised as strategy. Here's the part nobody is talking about. A lot of draft rumors are not lies, they're just incomplete truths. The Browns can be open to trading down, interested in a receiver, willing to take defense, and still undecided on tackle at the same time. That sounds messy, but that is what real draft rooms look like. The outside world wants one clean answer. Inside the building, there are usually 5 realistic paths being debated until the board forces one. So when people ask which rumor is the real one, sometimes the answer is annoyingly simple. More than one of them is real. The fake part is when someone pretends one path is already locked. I also think the free agent talk around quarterback and wide receiver matters more than people realize. If Cleveland really believes a veteran quarterback can still be found after the draft, that affects how aggressive they need to be on a rookie passer. If they believe a veteran receiver like Keenan Allen could still stabilize the room, that changes how panicked they feel about forcing a second receiver in round 1. Those are not glamorous moves, but they absolutely shape how real certain draft rumors are. Front offices don't operate in a vacuum. They are constantly balancing the board against what might still be available afterward. And honestly, that is why the Browns are such a difficult team to read right now. They have enough needs that multiple rumors can sound plausible. They have enough uncertainty that media people can build entire theories around one clue. And they're drafting high enough that the whole board can flip depending on what happens in the first 5 picks. That last part matters the most. A rumor can look incredibly real on Monday and die by Thursday night because one player goes earlier than expected. That is draft season. It's chaos pretending to be certainty. So if we're sorting through it cleanly, here's where I land. Real, the Browns probably don't want Ty Simpson high. Real, a day 3 quarterback flyer remains possible, but only as a cheap swing, not some grand plan. Real, they would absolutely love to trade down, but that doesn't mean they will. Real, Carnell Tate feels like the clearest offensive fit if they stay put and go receiver. Real, if Tate is gone and the board breaks wrong, defense is very much in play. Real, the receiver value later may be better than the tackle value later. Smoke, any version of this story that claims Cleveland already has one final locked-in path. They don't. They are reading the board like everybody else. And that is what makes this whole thing so tense. The Browns aren't just choosing a player, they're choosing a direction. Help the offense now, build the defense into a monster, trade down and think bigger, patch today while preparing for 2027. Every rumor is really a different philosophy wearing a player's name. And on draft night, one of those philosophies is going to win the room. The scary part for Cleveland is that whichever one they choose, somebody is going to call it obvious in hindsight and stupid in real time. So now the real question is not whether the rumors exist. Of course they do. The real question is which version of Cleveland is actually sitting in that room when the clock starts. The team desperate to fix the offense, the team tempted by defensive upside, or the team trying to outsmart the entire board by moving back and buying tomorrow. Because once that pick comes in, all these rumors stop being theories, and then we find out which ones were smoke and which ones were the warning signs nobody wanted to believe.